And I'm over there nervous as all heck, starting my first game. And I'm like, hey, man, we're inside zone to the left. I'm just going to give you the ball. Just let me get my feet wet. I'm a freshman. Sure enough, the end crashes. I pull it, and I ended up running for like 85 yards for a touchdown on the very first play of my college career. So like,
Unreal. Casual. You're like, I'm
yeah,
here.
like
Hey guys,
stuff like
by the
that to
way.
me is like, yeah, like so that was when I was like, okay, like I have the athletic ability to do it on this level.
Welcome to Champion This with Briana, Salvatore, Dueck, and Chelsea Poppens, where we share the incredible stories of athletes and entertainers who are using their platforms to create positive change in the world and the communities they live in. Today we have Brett Hundley on the pod, a total football legend. Brett is a former NFL quarterback, and he's played for teams including the Green Bay Packers, Arizona Cardinals, Indianapolis Colts, and the Baltimore Ravens. He's also a legend of college football. He was an alum of UCLA, where he set some insane records as the starting quarterback, including most career touchdown passes, most total offensive yards, and most career completions, which still, it blows my mind. And that record stands today. Off the court, Brett is also really passionate about advocating for epilepsy awareness, which has been inspired by his sister's journey, and he has his own nonprofit, which champions this cause. Welcome to the pod, Brett.
Man, great introduction. I appreciate it. It's crazy hearing all that stuff. Thank you guys for having me on. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, you got quite the resume. You retired in 2022, but kind of like where was the beginning of football for you? How did you first fall in love with it?
Oh, man. I feel like a lot of athletes, and especially in the football community and for everybody doing sports, it's something that like it was my way out, I would say. And then also like just fell in love with football. Like I grew up playing the sort of round robin of track, basketball, football, and over time just developed a more and more passion with football. And obviously we just went over the stats, and sometimes it's crazy because I'm hearing it and I'm like, man, I have not reflected on like how fast this stuff goes and what I've done. But yeah, it's been a heck of a ride, a blessing. And football was just the one thing that I really found a passion for, and took me to where I am today. So really grateful for it.
That's really cool. Were you a multi-sport? Did you do other sports outside of football growing up?
I like to say, like, people call me sort of like they thought I was probably going to be LeBron James in basketball, but I just went with football. So, but no, I did play basketball. I really wasn't that great. I played it in high school. I played it in high school, and then I ran track wise. I was never the strongest or the fastest. I did long jump, and but football was where I made my name.
That's amazing. I know. I did like long triple jump and high jump in the off season just because I was like, it's fine. We're athletic.
Yep.
They tried to coax me into doing like the 400 and hurdles. I'm like, there's not a chance. That is my punishment for basketball. I'm not doing that.
Oh
We'll go
yeah,
out and jump with you and like chit chat during track
I'm right there
season.
with you.
But
It's awesome.
yeah, no, that's awesome. So kind of to continue on your journey, you ended up going to UCLA. We talked about the multiple records. Just to reiterate for listeners, Brett has the total offensive yard record and most touchdown passes for UCLA. And he also has led the team to a ton of major bowl games. But talk to us about what your experience was like playing under Coach Jim Mora and just being a Bruin in general.
Oh man. So growing up in Arizona, had no idea what LA was like, had no idea what California was like. And at the time, now Arizona is really, a lot more developed. At the time, Arizona was nothing close to what it is today. So a lot more open land and stuff like that. And it was a straight culture shock going out to LA, but it was one of the greatest things that I could have ever done, just even leaving the state. So my time at UCLA was like, it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, honestly. And UCLA was great, not only academics wise, but football. At the time we weren't the greatest football team, but we became a really good powerhouse and never lost to USC. so I'm happy with that one. Um, but UCLA was a great opportunity, and then playing under Jim Moore, it was a perfect timing too because Jim had came on when I was a redshirt freshman. So my freshman year was Rick Neuheisel, awesome coach. Still talk to him to this day. He had got released. Jim Moore came on, and then actually Noah Mazzoni, who was the offensive coordinator. I grew up in Arizona. He was offensive coordinator of ASU at the time. I still give him crap to this day. I was just talking to him last week, but he didn't recruit me. He didn't give me an offer. And then we ended up meeting at UCLA. So long story short, we hit it off. He was a great, one of the greatest offensive coordinators I had. Jim Moore was an amazing
Mm.
coach. Really did some really strong things with that program. And then we became, top 10 in the country at the time.
Mm.
Crazy.
What played like into your decision to go to UCLA?
Whew,
Were there other colleges that you were bouncing around, and that one you just liked everything about the coaching staff? And
Yeah, I was actually silently committed to Washington before, and at the
Silently
time,
committed is
silently committed. I really
crazy.
was. Yeah, seriously, at the time too. And I want to say the quarterback was Jake Locker, if the name is correct. Jake Locker, and I still remember when on my visit, great trip. Silently sort of gave him like, yeah, I'm gonna go there, and then ended up saying, all right, screw it, I'm gonna take a trip to California and see what it's like. And honestly, I knew about UCLA just from the academic side of things, and nobody probably knows this, but I really went to UCLA to be a doctor, anesthesiologist.
wow.
Um, yeah, trust me, it was. I learned a lot quick, and football was awesome, but there was no. I mean, the balance of football and trying to be a doctor at UCLA or going through med school was a different beast.
Yeah.
And so, that's UCLA really got my attention academically. I always knew that something had to be next outside of football. So I think just going there was a great opportunity for me. And then once I got there, transitioned sociology, economics, and learned a lot from it. But UCLA again, one of the greatest decisions, and I'm so happy I went there. But that's the long story short of why I chose UCLA.
Really
Y-
cool.
Those doctor classes are no joke, too. You probably got there and you're like,
One funny story about that, and this is actually when I changed my major. One of the first tests we had, I'd like to think I was doing halfway decent in the class, but there were people, and I mean, I saw at least 5 to 6 people like crying, handing in this test, and I was like,
Stop.
this ain't it. I was like, this is
No.
not is I can't do. I can't compete with this. Like these people
stop.
lives are on the line probably for these tests, and I'm over here
Yeah.
trying to play
Yeah.
football. Is no joke. Like it's a
It's
very
insane.
serious thing there.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like I have learned so much more about being what it means to be a football player through a lot of my friends who have played in the NFL or did college football. And like your not only is your off on field training crazy, but the amount of hours that you spend in like study hall, that's not the right word, but
Yes.
basically like film sessions for
Yeah.
football, and you're like the starting quarterback at a top 10
Yeah.
program. You are
Yeah.
like the king of study hall. You're in there all day long learning plays. And then the plays switch up every week. You have like an extra.
Yep. That's why it's
I'm
it's
like,
just and being the quarterback trying to learn, I was like, there's no
mm-mm.
chance. Like this is
Yeah.
this is gonna work. Like so I changed my major after that pretty quick.
That's crazy. Did you have any, Brett, any kind of defining moments throughout your career at UCLA that you felt like really kind of, yeah, just were a huge part of your experience there, whether on the field or off the field?
I would say on the field, I think there were so many great memories at UCLA. Like on the field, I think I mean, honestly, the first year we played Andrew Luck in the Pac-12 championship, that was a moment because UCLA at the time was not good. Nobody thought of us as a good football program, and for a long time. And so to start my retro freshman year to make it to the Pac-12 championship, we lost to Andrew Luck, who's a great quarterback. So not really complaining there, but we lost to Andrew Luck in the Pac-12 championship. That was just a huge moment, especially to for me to get the start. And then, probably off the field, just the people I met, honestly, I think every athlete can say the same thing. It's the relationships you meet throughout your athletic career. Like, that's the stuff I remember. So, like, all my friends, all the people I still stay in contact with. Like UCLA off the field taught me so much, not only regarding football, but even the relationships I still have to this day. Some of the greatest friends I have are from UCLA. So like that's the kind of stuff that, off the field, like UCLA was just, again, I'll always say it, one of the best decisions I ever made.
I think it's always wild. When you get to college, like that was kind of like the goal, you want to go play in college. And
Yeah.
then like was there any pivotal moments where you're like, I'm going to go play in the NFL? Like you knew it, that you were capable of getting drafted. Like what year in college, or like when did you know that you had the potential to do that?
Um, I was really happy when I got the start. That was like the first, like, all right, I'm the starter. And
Yep.
that was my first hurdle. And then it really, I mean, and this was another crazy story. The first play of college, it was my first play ever of college. We were playing Rice in Houston. And Jonathan Franklin at the time was the running back. I mean, I think he was like a junior, killing it, amazing running back. And I'm over there nervous as all heck, started my first game. And I'm like, hey, man, we're inside zone to the left. I'm just going to give you the ball. Just let me get my feet wet. I'm a freshman. Sure enough, the end crashes. I pull it, and I ended up running for like 85 yards for a touchdown on the very first play of my college career. So
Unreal.
like,
Casual. You're like, I'm
yeah,
here.
like
Hey guys,
stuff
by
like
the
that to
way.
me is like, yeah, like so that was when I was like, okay, like I have the athletic ability to do it on this level. And then from there, the rest of that season, I mean, we put up some really good numbers, and that was probably, when you're playing, you don't like look at the bigger picture. That was the first time after the season I was like, I can be here. I can play. I can compete against these people. And then after that, I was like, yeah, it's gonna happen. We don't make this work.
Mm-hmm. It's going to
Let's
happen.
go.
Yeah, he'll make this work.
That's epic.
Was there anything that, like, as you look back on like being at UCLA, that you wish you would have known before transitioning to the NFL?
Um, Absolutely. I would say the one thing, and I would say that I talk to all the young players coming up now and transitioning, is I didn't know how to manage money. And I'm sure a lot of athletes who get to that level, especially in the transition, um, don't know how to manage money. And so, long story short, I'm in, great place now, but I wish that first part of when I got my check, and just how to set it up. Like, I think if I would have had a better understanding, but you sort of live and you learn. When you're 20
Yeah.
some years old, young 20s, and you get a lot of money, you're like, all right, it's time to ask. You're thinking, all right,
Yeah.
what can I do that I haven't done growing up? And
Yeah.
so it comes with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And then
No,
you
it's
imagine all the NIL people now and figuring out how to
Oh,
navigate that. It's the
oh
wild,
my!
wild
so
west.
true.
The NIL, man, it's the craziest thing, because I'm like, if I was able to get paid in
Oh
college,
my gosh.
oh, oh my gosh, like I miss so much money, and these kids are making
Facts.
millions of
Yeah.
dollars
No,
now, and I love it.
literally.
And
Yeah.
crazier story is the National College Players Association, or the I want to say, if I'm pronouncing that right, it was started at UCLA. I was a part of it while I was there, so we were
Wow.
advocating for this rule change to happen.
Wow.
Long story short, it passed. The rule passed, so now the NIL is what it is now. But like, it started at UCLA, and like I remember fighting for this stuff. Like, hey, we should get paid, and now I'm
Same.
happy to see the next generation be able to get a lot of money. But
Yeah.
still, in my position, I'm looking back like, man, I wish we would have had it then.
Slightly
Yeah,
salty.
for sure.
Absolutely,
That's crazy. There should be some kind of like the pioneers who lay the
something.
groundwork for this have
Some
some kind of
reparations
like,
for
yeah, some
us.
I
commission on
got.
this deal.
I remember I got like a $250 NCAA check when they
Oh, the
had to disperse it
settlement?
out. And yeah, I was like, man,
Yeah.
what is this? I was like,
That's
stuff like that. I'm just like, I mean, I'm happy everybody's getting paid now, but it's,
right.
these kids can even get paid in high school now. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's the wild, wild west out there now.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
whole different ball game. No, it's very true. Okay, so let's jump to you being in the NFL. So you're drafted by the Green Bay Packers, and you are playing underneath and alongside one of the greatest quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers. First of all, what was it like to get drafted? And then what was that first year like in the NFL playing with one of the game's greats?
Oh, the feeling of getting drafted, I'll say, like, it's hard to recreate or even explain it. Like you work your whole life to get to this moment, and to get the call from, and I didn't talk to Green Bay not once during my draft process, so I had no idea they were even.
Really?
Yeah, I had no idea I was even on the radar of
That's
Green Bay.
crazy.
Oh, it was the wildest thing. I'm sitting in California and I get a 920 area code. I have no idea this, and I get Mike McCarthy's voice on the phone, and next thing you know, I'm heading out to Green Bay. Like when you're flying into, it's literally just the stadium. And at the time, it's just the stadium, and like there's nothing else. Like, so I'm like, man, it's like culture shock going to California, then a culture shock going to Green Bay. But honestly, it was one of the greatest. Like, I will say, like, it was one of the greatest opportunities because there is nothing else but football in Green Bay. Like you live, eat, sleep, breathe football. When the team's doing bad, Green Bay's doing bad. Like
Mm.
it's a culture thing. And but like for me, it was great because being around Aaron, amazing guy and still a good friend of mine. But just to be able to see how he operates, like me as a quarterback, you can only ask and dream for those type of situations. Like I learned a lot from UCLA,
Yeah.
but I learned how to actually dissect the game, be a professional from Aaron, and finishing on my career and the places I was able to go after Green Bay. Like Green Bay was a great starting point for me to like learn everything I needed to learn to make it as far as I did. As many years as I did in the league.
Hmm. What was his leadership like?
Aaron's he wasn't, actually it changed a little bit over the course of time that I was there. So when I first got there, he was very much so the vocal leader, and he always still is. But I think, and over the changing of those 2 or 3 years, he became a little bit more relaxed. And but Aaron was always great with people. Very, very intelligent. One of the most, I mean, probably one of the most highly intelligent people I've met in my lifetime. And not only just like talking football, like this dude, I mean, you've seen him on Jeopardy. Some of the we used to play, it was a game called Sporkle, and before every game, and like it was literally
Sporkle?
Jeopardy, and yeah, sport, like that was what we played before games. And
What? You okay, wait, expand on that. You played a game before this is
Sporkle,
wild.
like the day before games, but like
The day before, okay. It's not
yeah,
like
day
in the
before.
locker room before you go to the
No,
field.
but I mean, I'm telling you, this is how crazy, like, especially being a rookie, before the day before the game, before we're about to fly out, or like I would, as a rookie, I would have to create like an hour long PowerPoint of like the opponent, what things we need to look at, and then I would like the last 30 minutes, I would need to be able to like entertain the quarterback room. And so usually it was like, usually I would look at like random crazy events, just the wildest things. But at the end of it, we'd always play Sporkle. It was always like get on Sporkle and like let's play it. And Aaron would just kill everybody. I'm not good at Jeopardy. Like I don't, you can ask me random questions. Like I don't know that, but Aaron was amazing. Even just be around.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Those rookie duties.
Oh yeah, buying food. I didn't have it that bad, to be honest. I like to make it a little bit bigger deal. But Aaron, as a leader, as a quarterback, he was always I'm gonna do what was done to me, and so how Brett treated him. Well, actually a little bit different. So Brett treated him a little bit different, but for me, Aaron was Aaron was really good, and he always took me under his wing and really just taught me everything I needed to know. Like I got my base and my foundation from Green Bay and really from Aaron.
Mhm. That's great. Well, in 2017, you got the call to be a starting quarterback for the Packers. What was that like? What was that when they let you know that you were going to be called up to the Packers? What was that transition like, and what did you learn from that season with them?
Um, so yeah, my thrust into the spotlight was, I mean, thrown in the fire, just like any backup quarterback at the time. Um, I still remember we were playing, random enough, we were playing the Minnesota Vikings, who had three people who were from UCLA: Eric Kendricks, Anthony Barr, and Dayton Jones. And I believe they had Cassius Marsh, maybe, but it was a squad of like UCLA players on defense starting. Aaron
Mm,
goes out in like the second or third quarter, breaks his collarbones, and this is how it works. Like as a backup, just writing down plays,
Yeah.
and then he goes down, and it doesn't hit you like I'm about to go in, like he's hurt. So
Hmm.
you're still like, all right, let's just make sure he's good. And then sure enough, the next series comes up, and they're like, all right, you're in. thrown in the fire, as anybody would say. But it was the greatest opportunity for me, because learning that, like, you can learn so much from not playing and being on the field, and getting the reps mentally and stuff like that, but actually getting the live reps, I was able to learn and embrace all of it, and went on to finish the rest of the season. And
Yeah.
it was a great opportunity, and it really helped me into the next chapter of, what I was still able to do in the league. So it was just a great opportunity to get in there and get some playing time.
Mm.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. And your next, so you eventually ended up getting traded to the Arizona Cardinals. Was that in the following season, or when exactly did you switch to the
So
Cardinals?
so I had went from Green Bay. I got traded to Seattle. I was with Russ for a year, and then after that, when Kyler got drafted to Arizona, I was signed on after finishing with Seattle to be in Arizona for 2 years with Kyler in his first 2 years in the league.
Awesome. Yes. What was kind of playing for Seattle, playing for the Cardinals? You've also played for the last squad was
Oh,
the
Baltimore,
Colts
and
and the
then yeah,
Ravens. So
the
you've had a
Colts.
couple different squads. Yeah, how is it? How has playing for these different teams kind of like affected your perspective on the game and yeah, just like navigating different football cultures? Like, what was that experience like for you?
It was honestly, it was cool for me, because now reflecting on it, I was able to sort of be around some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I mean, I was with Aaron, got traded to Seattle. I was with Russell, who should, at the end of his career, be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I was able to be around, Carson Wentz was a great quarterback and still is. I was able to be around Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Like, these are some of the greatest quarterbacks. And to be around them, to witness what they do, to, Kyler Murray, another great quarterback. But just to be able to witness, like, and the one thing I think that helped me was just understanding that, like, greatness can be in like different phases, like, especially as
Mhm.
quarterbacks, like, it's not like a one set, like, this is how you be great. Like, I've seen greatness from Aaron in a different way than I would see greatness from Russ. Like, Russ was like, you're not taking a day off. It's every day. And it's just a
Mm,
different way. It's a different culture. Aaron was a
totally.
little bit more relaxed, but like still great nonetheless. And then
Right.
Kyler was just, learning the ropes and stuff like that, but an amazing quarterback. And then, talking about Lamar, that dude is just a freak of nature.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I've never seen somebody be able to eat like a McDonald's hamburger and go out and kill
that's
a
wild.
starting defense
There's
for
no
the
way.
Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, like one of the top three defenses in the NFL, and kill them. I've seen
Wild.
it all, like, I've seen it all. And
Mm,
to be around those guys was an
mhm,
awesome, awesome opportunity of mine. And
mhm.
to say I had any type of helping hand in securing some victories for them and helping them out, game planning and stuff,
Yeah,
just a real cool experience.
Mhm.
so cool. It's
Which
interesting. It
was
reminds me. Oh, go ahead,
nope,
Chels.
you got it.
Sorry.
You
I
good.
was just gonna say, I my favorite athlete of all time is Kobe Bryant. Love this man and just kind of what he stands for. But it's interesting because his approach to basketball is very much like all in, like
Yeah,
eat, sleep, all you do is dream about basketball. And there was such a like wake up at 5 a.m., be the first one in the gym, and you leave at 10 p.m. And
yeah,
versus like the vibes of a LeBron James, who obviously is also working extremely hard, but maybe has a little bit more of a kind of balanced approach to the game. Like,
yeah,
and they're both great, like absolutely, mavericks of the sport, but kind of different approaches to the game. But thinking
yeah.
about that and you being also one of the greats of your sport and getting to work alongside these greats, were there any like themes that you've personally taken on for yourself when you think about kind of what are your core values and how you go about being great in life, and even in your
Absolutely.
next play post football?
Absolutely. And great question. It's cool for me because in my position, being able to witness them, um, I was learning through them, and not just learning football, but like I was learning from them, just how they carry themselves off the field, how they, again, are professional. And just like you said, like Aaron would be more comparatively related to like the LeBron James, where he's a little bit more
Hmm.
balanced.
Yeah.
Kobe, more like Russ, where
Yeah.
everything eats, sleep. And I think to any extent of greatness, like you're going to have imbalance. Like you can never have that true balance if you're going to try to be truly great at something.
Yeah.
But I think in this, like I've seen that, and I've witnessed is just, I think as the higher you get and the better you're at it, something I think you become more efficient at it too. So the time that somebody who's learning, time for you to learn and pick up things is a lot faster. Then just for myself, like even carrying it out post football and being able to reflect on, the things I've accomplished post football. Honestly, it comes down to routine, I think, is watching these guys. Like, that is the one thing that helped me the most and what I learned the most about them. Like, I don't care if it's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, morning, night. Like, my routine is my routine. And, like, as long as I can continue that, whether I'm sick, like, I'm always trying to get better. And if it's
Mhm.
football, when it was football while I was playing, like, that was my number one priority. Now switching it off to post football, whether it's real estate or even with the foundation, like there's a routine, and then just what I've noticed is getting outside of football, because you try to figure out like what transitions, like what can I take from football, and like because it's not like I remember that was my biggest thing. It's not like the locker room and meetings. I mean, you got
Right.
guys yelling, talking. It don't work like that. And we're like, people would get scared, especially,
I know.
like
I wish it was
complete.
like the locker room. Honestly, I'm like,
Yeah.
just be direct. You're
Yeah.
getting
100%.
feedback.
Oh my gosh.
Just
Yes.
yell at
Like
me a
that
little.
is 100%. Like, just tell me what I need to know, get to the point, let's keep it pushing. But like, I realize it's like in outside of football, the locker, it's not like that. Like, people, you have to
Mhm.
be a little bit more, you have to,
Delicate.
emotional, yeah, delicate emotional intelligence. And people will fold if like you just are super, like it's a different beast. But like the thing that I knew that at least helped me transition was just the routine. Like, when I didn't necessarily know anything about real estate space, when I was getting into developments and even foundation, trying to figure out like where the impact's going to be, I knew that if I just took the same approach and then used it into this new method of what I was trying to learn, and in the couple years I've been out, I've made a lot of progress, and I'm not where I want to be today still, but like the routine has always kept it the same thing. And for me, that's been the biggest thing that I've learned from all these guys is they've all had their own, but like that routine and the way they prepare and get ready for the game is consistent throughout.
Mm, that's great. When I was at Iowa State, Coach Finley would always say, like, you're here for 4 years, but you gotta what you learn and who you become, you have to take away for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't think a lot of people, a lot of kids realize that the game, no matter what sport it is like mental as much as it is physical. And
Yes.
you kind of like touched on it, like your adaptability and what you've taken away from the game. But like, how would you say you've developed resilience through all of your experiences that and to
Absolutely.
where you're at now?
Yeah. Um, I think football in sports, I mean, not even football, just like you said, sports in general teaches you a lot about life. And for myself, like, I mean, there was times when I did not start, I wasn't the starting quarterback. I got benched, like just a lot of difficulties. And I think in life, a lot of people, whether it's quitting, not thinking as high of themselves, like for me, football has taught me all those things. So like when I do have something that might be a setback where other people might stop, like to me, I'm like, okay, I just need to learn this or I need to learn this. And then I need to take 2 steps forward and keep pushing. Like I think that's the biggest takeaways for football and even mentally. Like I feel like that's the base of everything is just learning that. And when I got to UCLA, I mean, I was hurt when I didn't get when I was a true freshman, it didn't start. But those moments, and same in high school, like those moments you take away from that, and you don't really like in the moment, obviously it hurts, and everybody wants to be the greatest and start, but those are the things that I can always reflect back on and look and say, okay, like I can pull from this because I've got through that before. I've got through that and I still
Hmm.
made it here. Same in situation when it comes to real estate. If something happens, cool, okay, I know what it feels like to not get what I shot out for right away. But then I also know how to like take that and figure out another approach to get to where I'm trying to go.
Totally. It almost like I feel like even as an entrepreneur now, I have my own sports agency, creator marketing
Yeah.
agency, and there are days where you're really taking a loss. I'm like, that
Yes.
sucked. I shot my shot and I tried something and
Yeah.
it didn't work.
There's a lot of
But
rejection out there.
Yep. 100%.
right. But you're like, you know what? That's okay. Like I know how to pivot and I know that this doesn't affect my like self-worth. I'm gonna remain confident even though I'm
Yes.
like bummed in the moment. And I'm gonna go and shoot another shot. And guess what? That one didn't. Like, let's
Yep.
go. But I think my experience with sport and understanding process and that there's a journey towards greatness, and then that
Yeah.
even if you do take a L one day, continuing to remain disciplined, like you talked about, and keeping your confidence high as you jump into the next game, the next play, the next, whatever it is. Yeah, it's really cool. I love that.
And I think you touched just to touch it because one thing I think that helped myself, and I'm sure a lot of athletes, I had to figure it out though, is the self-worth part. Like I had to separate like who I am with football and like who I
Mm-hmm.
am, like when I
Mm-hmm.
actually was able to make that separation and knew that like I'm not, if I make a bad play in football, like I'm still me. Like this is me outside of football. Like when I and it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but like being able to get through that stuff separation and then figure out who I am outside of football. I think that's a huge stepping point for any athlete in the career, and I think it only makes you better on the field too. Then you sort of play a little bit more looser and free.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
man, that identity crisis is real.
Yes,
It
yes, yes,
is.
absolutely.
Uh, Curious, what brought about your decision to retire? And like, how was that like, kind of like transition from retirement to like finding yourself? Or were you already kind of
Yeah.
like set up since you had that mentality of identifying yourself outside of being an athlete?
For me, it was really when I got traded from Green Bay to Seattle, especially because I had never, in my mind, I wasn't thinking about. I was still thinking like I still got another year on my contract, and I'm gonna be here for a while. Just bought a house, a couple months before, and so when I first got traded, and I realized how much business there really is behind this game because I was still young at the time. I think for me, that's when that clicked. And then I started realizing, like, okay, this is not going to last forever. And that was probably the first smack in the face, as you would call it, or reality check, I think is a better one, for me playing in the NFL. And then knowing that like this is, there's nowhere else to go outside of the NFL. Like once you make it to the NFL, like there is no higher next level, So I knew
Mm,
like once my time is done here, it's the real world. And I've always been scared of. I think the average career in the NFL is 2.8 years, not even before your pension, not any of that. And for me, it was a huge reality check of like, okay, I need to make sure I'm setting myself up for success after football, financially, what I want to do, like what are my passions, and then using this time to figure those things out. So then it sort of was like, okay, I started maybe having a little bit more balance of like, I'm all in on football, but then also I was exploring like what else brings me joy and happiness. Like what do I find passion for outside of football? And then over the next couple of years, I was able to find real estate and the foundation and stuff like that. And then, sure enough, I was just thankful by the time I was retired and the call stopped, and there was no more teams wanting me. Again, not where I wanted to be, but in a much better place, farther ahead than I would say than most players when they're just completely done, and then you have to look out and figure out what's next.
mhm.
Yeah, totally. Something that you've touched on throughout our episode is your foundation. And, our show is called Champion This, and we love to explore the impact side of the guests that we bring on the show. And you really are a champion for impact, and you embody what it means to be more than an athlete. So, long-winded question here, but to keep it short, would love to understand like why you decided to start the Hundley Foundation, and just a little bit more about what you are doing with the foundation.
Absolutely. So the foundation is like my passion project. And that's the thing that just brings me so much joy and what I found. But the reason it actually got started was my sister was diagnosed with epilepsy when we were about 10, 11 years old. And never really, we always kept it pretty close to the family. So didn't really speak much about it until I actually went to UCLA, randomly said something to a reporter like, "Hey, my sister, battles with epilepsy and stuff." And sure enough, that got spread out, got us connected to the Epilepsy Foundation of Los Angeles. Became the first place that my sister really felt a place to be heard and be around others who were still battling the same things. My sister was a big time track athlete as well, so the athletics were all a part of our family. But she had to stop because of the medicine and stuff that gets put on when you're dealing with epilepsy. And then,
Mhm.
sure enough, one thing led to the next. Started doing a lot more work with the Epilepsy Foundation. And then, we had came together, me and my sister, and was just like, I think this is a great time for us to use this platform and start our own. So grateful for everything the Epilepsy Foundation has done, but we would love to start our own. And sure enough, called it the Hundley Foundation, and supporting children and families in need. And again, we got started because of epilepsy, but that mission statement, we left it broad because we knew there were so many other people that we wanted to touch and create impact for, and we didn't want to feel limited just to epilepsy. And so it was the best thing, passion project, whatever you want to call it. It was just a great opportunity for me to use not only my platform, but allow my sister to be heard, allow her to have her own community of people who she can now go back and tell her stories to, and speak to these young children that are battling the same thing and might not understand or feel heard in the same situation that my sister was in. And I've seen it, I've witnessed it now. And so to be able to see her giving back and telling her story, which opens, allows her to tell it, but then for these kids to sort of know that they're seen as with everything they're going through, I think has been one of the coolest things this foundation has brought for me.
Mm, that's
Super
beautiful.
powerful. Yeah.
Like we talked about this a little bit before, but my brother had partial epilepsy, and so he had in his 20s he had 2 accidents where he totaled 2 cars. He like went blacked out, went unconscious, and totaled like full gas on the pedal, like super scary moments. And then
Yeah.
then you don't realize like the meds after they try to find the right meds,
Yes.
the right mix of meds that is going to help fix the problem. And there's so many things like he doesn't have it anymore. Apparently you can have partial or complete, and it can go away for some people, and some people it lasts their entire life. But it's wild to learn about it and what you're doing, and for your sister to have gone through it as a kid, to face
Yeah.
like as young kids, like the being different is not what you want. And
Yes, that's a huge thing.
yeah, and like even as an adult, like you don't really you don't want to deal with that type of different
Yeah.
either. But I think that's awesome that you guys are resourcing and bringing community together for anybody going through that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's some scary stuff.
So, Brett, you recently retired from football in 2022. You have now taken some time with your wife to travel around the world. You visited like, I don't know how many countries, like 40 countries in how many years?
Living his best life.
Living the best life on an extreme.
Yeah, but what has this experience been like, and what inspired you and your wife to really go and explore the world?
Um, Honestly, this has been one of the greatest years of my life. Honestly, like, and football has been a huge part of everything I've been able to accomplish. But um, just like we were talking earlier, like there's always an imbalance when you're trying to be great at something. And I knew once I was done with football, like I wanted to enjoy life as well.
Yeah.
I'm still going to compete in what I'm doing, but I still wanted to enjoy life. And so me and my wife, we planning for about 2 years before I retired, and I always had this vision of like moving abroad. And
Yeah.
people sort of thought we were crazy, but we were like, no, we're gonna do it. And so we planned, and sure enough, when I retired, got everything in line, and we did it. And last year we officially left in April, May, and I mean, I've been to now 63 countries. I think my wife is at 63. So I think she's a little ahead of me, 64, 65 maybe. But
Wow.
we were always massive travelers. Like every off season, I would go somewhere, and just always be gone during off season. And then I would start training, pick it back up. But we last year we lived in like 26, 27 different countries. So we were literally like every week and a half moving to the next country, and we just wanted to see everything. And we did, and now we're still abroad. So we'll go back to Arizona. We do real estate now, and so she's a realtor. We do developments and stuff like that, so it works perfect. And then we'll fly back to Arizona when a project starts, be there, make sure it's where it needs to be, and then our base, Barcelona. Right now, currently, we're living in Prague, but yeah, it's been
Wow.
just being able to experience all this stuff has been amazing.
Yeah. So cool. Literally
Well,
the dream.
you kind of, okay, so you retired and then got into real estate.
Yeah.
Did your wife, was she a huge influence in how you got into real estate?
So we sort of got into it at the same time. She still is a nutrition coach, fitness, so she kicks my butt and keeps me in shape. But at the time, I was sort of I'd done some managing of properties, and I still sort of manage my own properties and a couple other teammates and friends and stuff. But I had a management company. And then from there, my good friend who built the house I was currently living in back in Arizona. Um, he was a GC, started my first development project with him. And then after that, sold it, did well, did another, and then got into flips, started doing those. And then she became a realtor. And so we sort of just tag team and said, if we're going to do this, if, we both were passionate about it. And it sort of worked out perfectly because now, she'll fly back, she'll sell. She works in Miami too as a realtor. So it's sort of just a match that was made. And it's sort of, and to it allowed us to travel. So with all this stuff we wanted to do, we knew that whatever we picked, it wasn't going to be no 9 to 5 in an office. Like,
Right.
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
it wasn't going to be that. And then it sort of lined up perfectly. We just naturally sort of fell into it. I loved it, and now we are full force in the development space and flips.
Yeah. I love that because I feel like there can be this narrative in people's heads of like there's only one way, really the way
Yeah,
of doing life is the 9 to 5 and I need to fit this mold of like the American dream, but like you and your wife are living proof of like no, you can build the life that you want and
yeah,
you know I think that's really cool and really
yeah.
powerful and awesome.
I
And I'm
appreciate
about to
that.
go move back to France because
I need a
we
gap
have,
year, guys. I
I
need a
know.
gap year like you.
I'm telling you, it's one of the greatest
Gap year.
things, and especially COVID actually helped because it also made everybody else realize you can work remote and
Hmm.
you can still get like I still am very productive even living out
Right.
here. Like I mean, don't miss meetings. I don't. Everything is the same. I
Yeah.
stay on the same time zone, so it's 9, 10:30 out here. But like whatever time it is back in Arizona, 1:30 or something like that. Like I'm still working.
Right.
But I'm able to like still when I'm done like go on a walk in the middle of
Yeah.
Barcelona. Like I'm still able to enjoy life, and I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure once I retired from football that whatever I was going to do, I wanted to spend time with my wife, spend time with my
Yeah.
family, and be able to balance because past 30 years, 31 years of my life has been nothing but football.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to wrapping up kind of the main portion of the pod. We have two questions that are more like inspirational vibes, but the first one, Brett, is what advice do you have for young athletes who are looking to chase their dreams?
Man, find your passion and give it your all. Like honestly, I've seen so many people like get burned out from
Mm,
sports and not necessarily love what they're doing. Like I figured out at the end of my career actually that I love football, but like my true love was competing.
mm,
So I had to realize like when I wasn't playing, I realized football wasn't necessarily the what I truly loved. I just loved competing.
yeah.
And I still got to do it and practice and stuff. But like for any young athlete, like truly figure out your why and what you're doing. And a lot of us, the why might be making it out. Getting a different life. But like having a baseline, and then also probably the biggest one, if you can figure it out younger, it's a lot easier. But like the separation we talked about earlier, like realizing that like you can have a bad game and that doesn't affect like you personally. Like it's just the ebbs and flows of being an athlete. Like you're going to learn, you're not going to be the greatest at first, but as you continue through the sport, if you just keep giving it your all, but then also realizing your identity is not tied to who you are on the field.
Mm, that's great advice. Couldn't ask for better. Uh, well, our podcast is obviously really revolves around impact and how you're using your platform and that line of stuff. But beyond sports, how can people, our listeners, use their platform, no matter how big or small? Not everybody's going to be a pro athlete, but how can they use it for positive impact?
100%. I think half the time people just look at the pro athletes, the LeBron James, Patrick Mahomes, and they say, man, I wish I could make an impact like that. But I think knowing that, like, regardless if you affect one person, two people, 10,000, 10 million, your impact is still your impact. And so being able to just say, like, this is what I want to do and do it. Like, no matter if you're affecting your small community, your neighborhood, your neighbors, um, as long as you're affecting the person you want to, and the demographic that you're trying to reach, like, everything is worth doing. And so even if you're only impacting one person, like, that's still a huge, huge thing. So say, just think big.
Yeah, great word. Okay, well, we love that. Before we let you go, we finish every podcast with a lightning round. So these are quick questions. Try to keep it to like 30 seconds each answer. Are you ready for lightning round, Brett?
Absolutely, let's roll.
Okay, let's get it. Brett, what is the most epic comeback win you've been a part of?
um for this question, I'm thinking, I first thought was like in Green Bay, but let me make it quick. It was actually, and when I was playing for UCLA, rest in peace, Nick Pasquale passed away like a week or two before this big time game. My first year starting at UCLA, and we were playing Nebraska, first ranked opponent, and at Nebraska, craziest. I mean, we were down like 21 points at a halftime. Everybody was just feeling sort of heavy from that, and then came back, won the game, blew them out. I mean, we scored like 40 some points in the next half. It
In a
was
half?
crazy. Yeah, it
That's
was
insane.
wild, and it was probably one of the greatest comebacks and victories and especially in that time when the passing happened and stuff. So
Mm,
just an awesome experience. And Nebraska fans were awesome too. They were very
yeah,
supportive. Just a really cool moment.
it's really cool.
Midwest goes hard.
They do. Best fans. 100%.
All right. Second question. Who was the most remarkable player you've ever played with?
um I'm gonna give two people for this. So, like, as a athletic specimen, I would say Julius Peppers. This dude was probably the craziest athlete I've ever seen. And him and like Cam Newton is up there too. Like, they're
Yeah,
just monsters, and
yeah.
able to run around and do the things. But like, as one of my favorite teammates, and probably my favorite teammate, Larry Fitzgerald. That
Mm,
dude is uh, a man's man. He's just one of the greatest, humblest, like,
yeah.
truly good people, of teammates. So, like, two different, like, athlete, but like great teammate. Larry was amazing.
Wow. Love that. Okay, next question. Switching up. Where's the favorite place that you have visited throughout your recent travels?
Um, Probably a favorite, one of the favorites. I always say, I'm Barcelona's always up there, but I would say South Island, New Zealand was one of the coolest experiences. I took a RV van, solo traveled, and did 2 weeks just driving the South Island, and it was, oh man, it's hard to describe. Like, the scenery, the landscapes, like, just when you see pictures, like, it doesn't do it justice to what your eyes are
Mhm.
actually taking in.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in Australia and I always wanted to make it over to New Zealand because I saw all the photos. So super
Yes,
jealous. I
yes,
didn't, but
got to do it.
yeah. Yeah. I'll put it on my bucket list. All right. Last question. If you could get dinner with any pro athlete in history, who would it be and why?
um My answer from this comes because he actually just came up. I was at a national quarterback club, and he was getting an award, but he actually passed away. He was the first African American quarterback to start in the National Football League, Marlon Briscoe. And so, if I could, and I got to meet him once, but
Wow.
I would love to have had the opportunity to at least go to dinner with him and just
Mm,
Hmm.
shoot the crap, just talk.
yeah, that's cool. I love that. Well, Brett, it has been awesome to have you on the show. Truly, your story is powerful. You're so charismatic and inspiring. For all of our listeners out there, we're gonna link Brett's social media profiles to the show notes, and so then you can follow along with his journey and stay tapped into all the cool things that he's doing through his foundation, through the real estate side, through kind of just his football journey as well. But thank you so much, Brett. It's been an honor.
I appreciate you guys for having me. Thank you so much.
Oh, before we completely sign off, is there any way that
I
people that want to get anybody that wants to volunteer or be a part of your foundation, is there any like thing that they can do to
Ooh, great.
do help what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, if you our Insta or our website, hundleyfoundation.org, if you go and even just shooting an email, and whether it's donating, whether it's just lending a hand for support for any events, especially for those living in Vegas or Arizona, which are two main staples. Like, if anybody watching is out there and would love to lend a hand, shoot an email. I'll personally respond. And anybody, I mean, even donations. So if you go to our website, hundleyfoundation.org, you can check out all the great things we're doing and be a part of something special.